How many of you have heard of me, and how many of you have not? Look at that. You go away for 5 minutes, they forget. I don't do many live presentations these days. We mostly work online with our clients all over the world, and it is true what Steve said a moment ago. Right now, we're spending most of our time in Queensland, but I spent the last 40 years in Melbourne before moving back to Queensland, and we're enjoying being back in Queensland. I originally started my life in Queensland, moved to Melbourne, and then my family said, we knew you'd come back. Just didn't know it'd take 40 years to come back. Do you have anyone from Queensland here today? Oh, terrific, yeah. Great place. Go back there tonight. The way to go. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my background for those of you who don't know very much about me. I'm actually a salesperson. Do we have any other salespeople in the room? Yeah. Anyone involved in businesses that needs revenue? Anyone not? I mean, just checking out. Is sales kind of important in business? What do you think? Okay. I'm going to give you an important note to start off with. How many of you would like to increase sales in your business? Okay, I've got the answer for you in 2 words. You ready? Seriously. There's important notes. You got it there. Sell more. I'm actually glad you came. If you want to increase your sales, sell more. In fact, there's actually a real secret I don't share with many audiences, but I want to share with this group. It's a 3rd word that says, sell more now. Do it now. Because look, I was talking with a business coach in Melbourne just a few days ago, and he said there's really only 3 things that a business operator needs to really master in order to have a successful business these days. And I leaned in, I thought, what is he going to say? And he said, the first one is to sell, know how to sell. Said, oh, great. Second one is know how to sell. Third one is know how to sell. Because seriously, for most businesses, that is the problem, the revenue. I mean, if you've got problems delivering, that's a great problem to have if you're really selling so much that you're having difficulty delivering on it. But that's been my life. A quick bit of background. I'm in high school, thinking about what will I do with the rest of my life. I was in that half of the class that made the top half possible all the way through school. I hated school. And rather than go to university, I wanted to get a job, and I wanted to get a job that I'd make some money. And sales seemed to be the way to go. So I went to a number of companies that didn't advertise. I literally rolled up, applied for a job, got knocked back. Any of you noticed there is rejection in sales, by the way? Yeah, it's there, and you've got to cope with it. But finally, one company said yes, and it was the NCR Corporation, back in those days known as National Cash. They gave me very, very good training. I was very successful at a very young age. I'm only 17 when I joined National Cash Register Company, NCR. And I joined in a sales support capacity because they said I was too young to be in sales. But I gave myself a promotion when my boss went on long service leave for 3 months. I promoted myself to sales, and when I started making calls, caught the eye of the sales manager who frankly wasn't impressed, but he said, okay, if you're really serious about sales, you're prepared to be in here at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'll share some ideas with you. If you're prepared to take the ideas and use them, we'll keep doing the sessions. If you're not, forget it. You'll go back to just normal sales support. He didn't think I'd do very well, I'm sure, but in reality, by age 18, I had joined what was called the Century Points Club. Now, I don't tell you that to impress you. I tell you that to impress upon you. All skills can be developed if the desire is high enough. And at age 17, think about this, 17-year-old kid in high school. Think of 17-year-old kids today, whether they be in the real world involved in selling at age 17. So by age 18, I saw the bright lights of Las Vegas, the very first sales conference that I've got to go to as a Century Points Club member. That is in the top 10% of sales performers internationally, not just in Australia. I had to actually pay for certain sessions. So one of the major lessons I learned early in life is pay for training, because the return on investment is huge. And I stayed in this place here. Frankly, it didn't look like this back when I went, and that's the late 1970s, Las Vegas. And it really opened my eyes and thought, wow, if this is sales, well, I have picked a good career, and I really think I did. Coming further forward, because I understood that it was all about personal development, I started listening to audio programs. Back in those days, they were on cassettes. I started reading books. And I got into the business by chance when I met a gentleman at the age of 22 when I formed a company called Wayneberry Associates. There were no associates, there was just me. And somebody said to me, you've got a few clients, you've got salespeople. We're bringing this man to Melbourne, and would you be interested in promoting him to your clients? And I said, well, give me an audio cassette, I'll have a listen. He did one better, he gave me a video. I looked at the video and I thought, wow, he speaks kind of funny. Sure, he's American. All Americans speak kind of funny, but he had a really strange way of speaking. And some of you may recognise that face. Do any of you know who that is? Gentleman down the back certainly does. His name is James Rowan. Any of you heard of James Rowan? Perhaps I might never see some of you nodding. Yeah, Jim Rowan to his friends. And I got to work with James Rowan, who is one of the world's leading business philosophers of his time. Sadly gone to God now, but we became friends. He became my mentor. And he introduced me to another gentleman who's, some of you may know this name, Dr. Dennis Waitley, author of The Psychology of Winning, who introduced me to Zig Ziglar. Any of you know any of these names? Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, some of you might know Brian, Tom Hopkins. Oh, by the way, Jim Rowan introduced me to this young man called Tony something. Tony Robbins, you've heard of him? Yeah? Okay, and I got to meet Tony when he was just in sales, working in Southern California office for Jim Rowan. So I go way, way back in terms of this personal development stuff. And I get to work with these amazing people like Roger Dawson, Jim Cathcart, Michael Gerber, author of The E-Myth and the E-Myth Revisited, I think it's called. Alan Peace, some of you heard of Alan Peace, Australian, living not too far from me in Queensland now. Mark Victor Hansen, author of The Chicken Soup for the Soul, series of books. Earl Nightingale, the Dean of Personal Development in Chicago, a company called Nightingale Conant, a remarkable man. I brought all of these people to Australia in the 1980s, Reverend Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Power of Positive Thinking. And in 1989, an interesting thing happened to my seminar business, which by then had 63 staff, 5 branches, riding high, written up by BRW as, an amazing young entrepreneur, and of course my ego. If you notice when we're young, we think we're important. I was no exception. I thought, I was so clever. And God sent me an airline dispute. Do any of you remember the airline dispute of 89? I'll refresh your memory. Some of you do, yeah. Planes stopped flying. Anyone remember for how long? Over a year. I mean, for me, it was too long. Can you imagine if tomorrow suddenly everything stopped flying, the challenges would happen? Now, I'm sure you all read Chinese these days, right? So this is Chinese word for crisis. It's actually made up of 2 symbols, and these 2 symbols come together as danger and opportunity. Some of you may have heard of this before, but some of the best things that have ever happened in my life really have come out of crisis. I'm a great believer that with every crisis, there certainly comes the seed of opportunity. So when we face crisis in our life, some people give up, and some people see it as an opportunity. I always see it as an opportunity. And for me, back then, I had an opportunity to meet Robert Kiyosaki. Any of you heard of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad? Yeah. And Robert was unknown at the time. In fact, I wrote the foreword for his book because I was better known than Robert Kiyosaki, if you can believe that. And his first book was, If You Want to Be Rich and Happy, Don't Go to School, which was pretty good advice, I thought. The book didn't do all that well, and then he wrote this other book that, really didn't do very well either, until Oprah discovered him, invited him into the book club, and it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he rocketed to stardom. But I tell you this by way of the fact that what I'm going to share with you today are not my ideas. I haven't invented this stuff. All I've done is very, very good research in the very practical world. I do work with salespeople, business people, and the ideas I share with them these days mostly online, with live coaches to support them, putting them into action, make a remarkable difference in people's businesses. And as I say, I don't really speak very much live anymore. Mostly we have our coaches. So let me move forward and just tell you also, this is where Miranda and I came from. That's home, that boat you see there. Now again, I don't tell you this to impress you. I tell this to impress upon you. For us, this is now living the dream. Now that shot is actually taken in Melbourne. The boat is now up in Brisbane, Scarborough. In June it will be in, where will we be in June? Great Keppel Island. Then in July it'll be in the Whitsundays up there. And again, I don't say this to impress you. I say this to impress upon you that to achieve the dream, to achieve whatever it is you want to do, as a result of being in business for yourself. How many of you are in business for yourself? Quite a majority of you, right? Why did you go into business? Didn't you go into business so one day you can live the life you truly live? Can any of you relate to that? So I'm basically saying we teach people how to do that because I do that. And it is very much a choice these days as to what I do. But that doesn't happen by luck. Have you noticed? Some people say, oh, Wayne, you're so lucky. No, I'm not lucky. I worked really, really hard, but I worked with really good strategies to get me to where I am. And the number one thing I did well, and the number one thing I mastered early in my life was sales. I mean, I'm no good at finance. I'm really no good at some of the detail stuff of, other aspects of the business, which, you have great experts in those fields. But I know that I can sell my way out of any financial difficulty. And I have done many, many times, had challenges. And that truly is great strategies. If you're ever being challenged in business, is seriously, sell more, sell your way out of it. But what if you don't have the skill? It's very, very challenging if you don't have the skill. I was lucky, that I did develop a skill at that young age at 17. So that's a quick bit of background. And I want to get into the real thing, and then we go back to the boat later on today with Miranda, who's sitting at the back of the room, who actually is only there for one day, and she flies out to China. Miranda's originally from China, and she does business in China and Australia, and we have a lot of fun traveling and doing that sort of stuff. And I'm going to introduce you to Miranda a little later on. So here's a question for you. What is selling? What is selling? I'd like you to think about that and write down a definition. How would you define selling? Just give you 30 seconds to do that, and then we'll get a few ideas from the room. Because if we're going to talk about selling for the next 80 minutes, I guess we should have an understanding at the beginning. What is selling? 30 seconds. Okay, anyone care to give me some suggestions? What is selling? How do you feel about selling? What's selling? Did I mention the big cash prizes that Steve has given away today? Yeah. Selling, what's selling? Say again? Selling your story, telling your story? Yeah, could be a part of it, thank you. Great, giving others the opportunity to experience and know about the great products or services that you can provide. I think that's a good definition. Thank you. What else? I like that. Asking people for money for solving their problems. And, you know, some interesting words there. Is it okay, the concept of money? Is that right? And wealth? Because some people don't feel good about that. You know, a lot of people do not feel good about selling because it involves money. And, gee, we better not do that. Is it true that selling can have a legitimate bad reputation from the past? Yeah, it very much has. And so that's why I thought it important to understand what we believe selling is today. And we had some other ideas over here selling. Wow, I'll just repeat that for our viewers. Understanding what people want and giving them a compelling reason for why they should buy it from you. Not just anyone, but buy it from you. Thank you. So look, everyone's got their own definitions here. Let me give you my definition, a definition we work with. And it says, helping people satisfy their needs profitably for both parties. Now, if I break that down, do all of you feel comfortable about the concept of helping people? Yeah, good. I think so. And I keep explaining to people who are new to sales, all we're really talking here is helping people. Not clever, tricky stuff. I mean, clever, tricky stuff works. Sadly, it still works once. But if you want long-term relationships, be seen as somebody who helps others. And Zig Ziglar, I think, put it so well, one of my friends and mentors there. He said you can get everything that you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. Have any of you heard that before? That's a great definition of selling, a great philosophy of life. You can get everything that you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. I saw a movie just recently called The Founder. Michael Keaton in The Founder, the story of McDonald's. If you think about it, McDonald's just figured out a way to give many, many people all around the world, millions of people, exactly what they want. Fast food, clean. For those of you old enough to remember, and of course I'm not old enough to remember, but prior to McDonald's, fast food was really pretty bad. And McDonald's systematized it, and it's a movie worth seeing, The Founder, Ray Kroc, how McDonald Brothers did it, and how Ray Kroc came along, a salesman, by the way, selling mixmaster machines to make milkshakes, saw the opportunity, worked with the McDonald Brothers, and made it enormously successful. Can you imagine how successful McDonald's would be if they had good food? Really? You know? Yeah, not exactly good, but yeah, selling. Satisfy their needs profitably for both parties. The concept of profit, I think, is important, and for both parties, called creating win-win. So that's our definition that we work with when we train people and coach people in sales. And for many people, that's an eye-opener. They've never seen sales that way before. They've seen it as high-pressure, pushy stuff. There's a new model for selling, which I'd like to share with you, which hopefully will make you feel even more comfortable about selling. But I'd like to contrast that with the old model of selling. The old model of selling I learned was like this. It began with building rapport, and roughly 10% of the amount of time was spent building rapport. It was quick building rapport. Joke telling, slap on the back. If you had the gift of the gab, supposedly you would be good in sales. And that was pretty much true back in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. Then it was time to qualify the buyer as to whether they met my needs. You know, do they have the money? Am I talking to the person who can make a decision? Roughly 20% of the time was spent qualifying the buyer. And this was exactly the way training was done with salespeople. Then we were told to make a presentation. And the presentations in those days, have any of you ever heard of the expression, a canned presentation? I mean, NCR, fantastic company, they had canned presentations. And you would learn verbatim the presentations for each piece of equipment. And if a piece of equipment had 100 features, guess how many you would show the person? 100. And if they interrupted you and you lost your place, you'd start all over again, right? I mean, seriously, and some of you have seen salespeople like that, a canned presentation. Treat everyone exactly the same. Wow, can you believe that? 30% of the time was making these presentations. And finally, you were told if you could master this last step, my goodness, you could be enormously successful in sale. And the last step was the big close. Closing the sale took 40% of the total time interacting with the customer was all about closing the sale. Wow. I never ever did it that way. And I was a bit of a rebel right from the beginning, but I just didn't understand why it had to be confrontational like that. The heavy emphasis was indeed on closing the sale, and we would talk the AB of selling, which was always be closing. You know, close heavy, close hard, close often. That's what it was all about. Didn't feel comfortable with it. I used a different model, which later on I finally understood what it was I was doing, and I've called it the new model of selling. It tips the old model upside down, and essentially it begins with building trust. Is trust kind of important in a relationship? Because really we're going to talk about relationship skills here. I believe that selling is really all about relationships these days. And in this model, what I suggest is that if we're doing our job well, 40% of the time is spent actually building trust, building a relationship. The Chinese know this so well. Do any of you do business with Chinese? Miranda, my partner at the back of the room, is Chinese. And when we're with Westerners who want to get down to business fast, they just don't get it. I said, no, we're not going to talk business. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're going to go out and have lunch with them. Yeah, and then we're going to get into business. No, we're not going to do that at all. Or we're going to go sailing. Oh, we're going to talk business. They can't get off the boat, right? No. We're going to have a nice time, develop the relationship. When they want to do business, they will start asking. Now, Westerners get very frustrated by that. But if you start doing business in the right way, building trust, particularly with the Chinese and some of those other cultures, once you become close to them as their friend, they will do business with you because they trust you. And if some competitor comes in and tries to dislodge you, forget it. You know, there's a lot of lunches in between that and actually taking the business away. Miranda still amazes me every now and again. She will get on the plane in Melbourne or Brisbane. She'll fly to Sydney to go and see a client. She did it just recently, a Chinese client, to take a birthday gift for a little girl who's turning 3. She just went there, had lunch, turned around, came back. And people say, are you kidding? What, no other business? No, that's what I did. Why would you do that? Well, you know, good client, do anything for that client, and that client really looks after Miranda with orders on an ongoing basis. So you don't do it necessarily for that reason, but how many of you heard that you get back what you put out? You really do. It's like karma. You know, it really works. And that's what this model is about. Building trust. And of course, trust is something you build right throughout the entire relationship. It's not built it at the beginning. Although with the Chinese, it is kind of, you know, really just doing that until they feel comfortable. And I get that way these days too, even with Westerners. So second step is understanding needs. We spend about 30% of the time understanding needs. That is asking questions, determining needs so we can make the right recommendation. The presentation finally occurs where we present the solution. And the presentation can be shorter because we have built trust, built rapport, understand the needs. Now, we don't show them 100 features. We don't tell them 100 things about good things that we can do. We just show them the few that are important to them because we know their needs. And then finally, we confirm. Confirmation, 10% or less of the time, confirming the sale. This model is easy. The strategies that go within it that enable us to skillfully handle the process are, in some cases, complex, but the overall system or process is very, very simple. 70% of the time is actually spent building the relationship before we make a presentation, and the focus is really on building that relationship. Okay, from time to time I'm going to stop and say, write down any ideas, key ideas that you got from now, or circle your notes there, because at the end I'm going to ask you, what did you get from the time we spent together? More importantly, what are you going to do with these ideas? Okay, so just have a look at your notes, 30 seconds. Write down, what will you do with what we've covered so far? Do you have any new insights yet? I hope so. Or maybe you've just had a few things confirmed for you that you believe all along. Okay, I thought we might talk about how to become a top sales achiever. Again, I've noticed that the most successful business people, no matter what business they're in, are very, very high achieving sales professionals, regardless of the industry. Whether they're an accountant, we know accountants who are extraordinary, while most accountants are in real big trouble these days. Why? They can sell very well. They can build relationships very well. We have people who are involved in tourist businesses at a time when many tourist businesses aren't doing well. They're doing well, they can sell. We have people who are involved in restaurant businesses, cafe businesses. Their cafes are full. Miranda and I noticed this as we walk along Scarborough there. Some are full and some are not full. And you go into the ones that have a lot of people there, you get greeted well. They really are in the sales business. So let's talk about what it is that top sales professionals do differently. Have you ever wondered why it is that some salespeople are enormously successful? What characteristics do they have in common? Because I studied this in order to create our program that we created in 1990, which was the Top Gun Sales Academy, the first Sales Academy program. We studied more than 300 different industries, and we studied high achievers, and we discovered what do they all have in common. So what I'd like to give you the opportunity to do right now is have a think, write down, what do you think the characteristics are of all high achievers in sales? So what skills do they all have in common? Perhaps what attitudes do they all have in common? What makes them so successful? Consider yourself. What is it that you do that works so well if you're good at sales? Okay, let's find out what you came up with. Any ideas? What do they tend to do well? Who'd like to kick it off? They're persistent. Now, if you don't have that on your list, I suggest you might like to put that on your list. This is called market research. Market research is good. What else? They listen and genuinely understand. They genuinely listen and they understand. Have you noticed some people, when you talk to them, they're looking away and they're thinking about the next clever thing they're going to say. They don't actually engage and listen. Or people who ask you a question and then they look away. They really don't maintain the eye contact. When you maintain eye contact, it says you're really listening. You care, genuinely care. What else? Build rapport. They do know how to build rapport. Is that a process? Is that a learnable process, building rapport? What do you think? Or do you just do that instinctively? Have you think you do it instinctively? Have you think that's something you can learn? Absolutely. It is something you can learn. It is a process. And if you've done neuro-linguistic programming, you know anything about it? Well, you would know. There is a process for building rapport. You know, that explains what it is that some people do very naturally. Thank you. What else? It's top salespeople. They're positive. They've got a great positive attitude. Thank you. What else? They're sincere. Absolutely. Is that also something that you can develop? And truly it is. You know, how you connect with people, your sincerity. You know, I used to think when I was younger I was being really, really sincere, and I wasn't. I was thinking about the next clever thing I was going to say, really. What else? Believe in their product, somebody said, and they certainly take a problem-solving approach. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. What else? They're single-minded. In what way? They're driven. Thank you. Good. Yeah. Somebody else said? They evoke confidence, invoke confidence in others, people confident to do business with them. Yeah, thank you. What else? Knowledge. What sort of knowledge? Okay, so they're knowledgeable. Terrific. And we're going to come back to that one later on and talk about just how important that is or is not. Attractiveness, the way that... yeah, energy, yeah. See, when I come up here, and let me tell you, I only put on a suit when I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, and because if I come up here dressed like I've just come off the boat, you can say, well, where did he get this joker? You know, really. But you do make a judgment. People make a judgment about us every time they see us for the first time. How well are you presented or not? It does count. It really does count. Thank you. And it's also the energy, and it's also the way you speak and things like that. Thank you. What else? What else? They're helpful and thoughtful, which is an attitude, isn't it? They have a great attitude about being helpful and thoughtful. There was a lady who works in a service station not too far from where Miranda and I now live on the Redcliffe Peninsula in Queensland. And there's twice I've been in there, and twice the young lady is really engaging. You know, that works for Coles, and you know, you go into some service stations and they really just don't pay you any mind at all. This lady's really engaging, has a nice little chat, and I said to her the second time, I said, "You really enjoy your work, don't you?" She said, "Yeah, absolutely, I love it." I said, "Have you ever thought of being in sales?" She said, "Do you think I'd do well in sales?" I said, "Yes, you are, because you're very engaging." And I think also when you find someone doing a great job like that, tell them they're doing a great job. I mean, it costs nothing to do that, and you might just change someone's self-image about how they feel about themselves. What else does good salespeople do? They show empathy. Thank you. Again, is that a skill that can be learned? Absolutely it is. Let me show you, thank you for those. Let me show you what we came up with as being the key characteristics of high-performing salespeople. We came up with a list of 10. In fact, we came up with hundreds, but we boiled it down to the top 10. The reason we do this is, if I share with you right now the top 10 characteristics of high-performing salespeople, and you look at these characteristics, you're going to recognize that you already have some of these well-developed. You may also recognize that some are not yet well-developed. You could then make a decision to develop those that you're not yet strong with, and would that make a difference to your sales outcomes? Answer, yes. And there's no magic in what we do. We have identified the top characteristics and we help salespeople to achieve exactly that. They do that. Yep. Okay, so Miranda has thoughtfully put out blank sheets of paper there. And part of what you're going to do on these blank sheets of paper is I'm going to ask you to score yourself. Thank you for the reminder, Miranda. I'm going to ask you to score yourself in these 10 key areas in a moment. So if you're not already taking notes in your book, you may care to take some notes on that blank sheet of paper. Although, can I suggest you take the notes actually in the book? And on the blank sheet of paper, you may care to put some questions, which if you feel we don't have time to cover those today, you can actually give us that sheet at the end. We can come back to you because we only have a short period of time here. Is that okay? So we can do it in either way there. Okay, so here are the 10 characteristics. Oops, I popped out of this. How do I pop back into that? It's normally down the back. They fix it really easy. I messed it up at the front here. Apologies for that. We'll edit the video, won't we? Thanks, Steve. Okay, so here's the first one. Positive mental attitude. Surprise, surprise. All salespeople, all successful business people and leaders have a positive mental attitude. As Miranda reminded us before, rate yourself how you feel when you write down positive mental attitude. How would you rate yourself in terms of positivity on a scale of 0 to 10? Are you an 8 out of 10? Are you a 9 out of 10? Are you a 1 out of 10? Do you know there's some people actually brighten up a room when they leave because of their attitude? You know what I mean? Not anyone here, but there are people like that, aren't there? Just, they're energy suckers. They don't have a good attitude. Here's the next one. Let's just talk about this. Harvard University did a study about the importance of attitude. They found there were 3 factors that determine success in life, in sales, in business, in relationships, in every aspect of life. And these 3 factors were product and industry knowledge. The gentleman at the back of the room said it before, so this is going to relate to selling, product and industry knowledge. And you remember pie graphs from school, so I'm putting a pie graph up on here. Guess what percentage of our success is in fact product and industry knowledge? Harvard University said roughly 10%. Now, does that mean you should only know 10% about your product and industry? No. How much should you know? 100%. But still only going to contribute 10%. Don't you know some really knowledgeable people that know everything, but their skill of imparting that knowledge is not too good, or they have an attitude that's not too good. The second factor was, in fact, skills. One of the areas that I work with a lot with salespeople and business people. And again, Harvard study showed roughly only 10% of our success is going to come from our skills. Do you know people who have good skills but they don't use them? Of course, we all know people like that, right? They talk about what they should do. They're very, very knowledgeable, but their attitude tends to hold them back. In fact, attitude, Harvard University said, is 80% of our success. It comes from our attitude. They're the three major determining factors for success. Because if we have a poor attitude, we won't use the skills, we won't use the knowledge that we have. Attitude is the major factor determining success in life, health, quality of relationships, everything. Almost everything affected by attitude. 80% of our success. Here's number 2, health and personal presentation. Gentleman said before, you know, how you present yourself. And health comes into it too, because if you don't look like you care for yourself, people will also make a judgment, wow, if they say they care for themselves, I don't think they're really going to take a lot of care of me. And they're often true. And we shouldn't do it. We should judge people by what's in their hearts, but we don't. We see them walking down the street, out about you, but every now and again I'll say, cross over on the other side of the road there. We do make decisions like that. A flip side of it's also true. If we are well presented and carrying a clipboard, we can go almost anywhere in life. Have anybody noticed that? And I was at a hotel in Melbourne just the other day when we were down there. And I said to Miranda, this is where I tell the story about where I used to park my Jaguar all the time. White Jaguar in my early 20s, you know, feeling important. I used to pull into the Sofitel there, the court there, and I get out of the car. I give the concierge my keys, and they'd smile at me and say, good to see you again, Mr. Berry. And I walk through the door, out the other side, down the street. I had no business in the hotel. I wasn't a guest in the hotel. But then because I looked like I belonged there, you know, arrogant, really, you know, terrible. I don't do that sort of thing anymore. But the thing is, personal presentation counts for a lot. I even came back one day, they'd washed the car. Very nice. I used to tip them, admittedly. But how do you rate yourself in your health and your personal presentation? It counts. So you might care to do a little score there, you know. Is it 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 8 out of 10? The next one. Product and industry knowledge. We said it's important, but again, how do you rate yourself? How knowledgeable are you on a scale of 0 to 10? Prospecting skills. How do you think prospecting is kind of important in a business? Let me tell you, I call it making your own luck. And JD, who's wonderful, and he's got a lot of really good stuff, when people contact you through your good marketing, you've got to handle the inquiry that's still called prospecting. Whether you made an outbound telephone call to call somebody that you want to do business with, or whether you're handling an incoming inquiry, it is still all prospecting. How do you rate yourself with that? How do your staff rate with that? Are you really good at prospecting? You can get on the telephone, make an appointment with anyone you want to do business with. We teach a strategy, by the way, make 10 calls, get 5 appointments. That's 50%. That is possible. We see people that we train who do even better than that, 80%, 90%. That makes a world of difference to the end result. It's called putting a lot of people in the pipeline. Number 5, consultative selling skills. And I guess we spoke before. It's really all about building relationships. It's about asking the appropriate questions, understanding a client's needs, making the right recommendation. Again, how do you rate yourself in that area? Number 6, the ability to handle objections. Anyone here ever been doing business with somebody and you laid a good presentation on them and they said, look, really appreciate you coming along, this looks really good. Tell you what, leave it with me, I'll get back to you. And you never heard from them again, they never returned any of your phone calls. Can any of you relate to any of that? Yeah. You see, there was an objection there that just didn't tell you. Now, I guess you've never done that with a salesperson either, have you? You've never said, oh, it looks good, I'll get back to you. Don't call, no need to call me, I'll call you. You see, we had an objection, we didn't like to tell the salesperson. But what if you could get to the real truth and then handle their concern, because that's all it is, a concern. How do you rate yourself there? Because if you're less than 10 out of 10 right now, you are missing out on business that should be yours. These are important skills to develop. These skills do not necessarily come naturally. I'm also a private pilot. Do we have any other aviators in the room at all? I mean, I didn't go to the airport one day and say, well, I think I'll learn how to fly a plane, and I've read all about it, and I've watched the videos on YouTube. We didn't have YouTube then, but, you know, I get in a plane, I can do it. No, you know, you crash, you burn, you die. It's not good. So, you know, it's like objection handling skills. It's like when I'm coming in on landing, it's the crosswind that blows you off course. And if you don't know how to immediately handle that, straighten the plane, land, regardless of what the wind is doing, what conditions are there, you know, you've got to get it right every time or you don't get to fly again. Okay? Now with salespeople, they take a really casual approach, like, yeah, it's okay, I missed out on that one, didn't know how to handle that objection. And they don't take corrective action. They don't figure out a better way of handling objections. They continue to repeat the process and lose sales, which is very, very costly. Number 7, the ability to gain commitment and close. Ask somebody to make a commitment. The old language, closing the sale. How do you rate yourself there? On a scale of 0 to 10. So I want to ask you right now, but you may consider, what's your conversion ratio? You know, have you ever thought of that? Do you have that? Most successful business people know exactly what it is. You know, 1 in 10, 1 in 5, 1 in 30, whatever it is. But, you know, even if it's, say, 1 in 5, there's still 4 people who are not doing business with you that possibly could have done business with you if you had some good strategies to ask them in a non-threatening, non-high-pressure way, because there are ways to do that. Number 9, negotiating skills. Any of you notice that life is all about negotiating? We don't get what we deserve in life. We get what we negotiate. And every day we're involved in negotiations with our family, friends, business, when we buy, when we sell. Important skill to have. I've written 3 books on negotiating. It just gave me a good excuse to do lots and lots of research to figure out what it is that good negotiators do. How do you rate yourself? Number 9, follow through systems. You know, do you follow through when somebody says, leave it with me, I want to think it over? Do you follow through after somebody has bought from you? Because when you follow through afterwards, it shows how much you really care, does it not? And it's all about building a relationship. And when I say systems, maybe you're so busy you don't have the time to do it yourself, but if you have a system, you have somebody else doing it for you, showing that they really do care. One of the ways we keep in touch with our clients is our Top Gun video sales tips. We send them out to everyone on our database, and if you'd like to subscribe, please give us your business card at the end. We'll happily put you on the list there. It's a way we keep in touch with our clients, keep giving them value on an ongoing basis, and showing that we really genuinely care. We don't advertise anything, don't push anything, just keep educating, keep helping. And finally, when somebody says, oh, we need to develop our selling skills, our negotiating skills, our leadership skills, who's that guy that keeps sending us that information that we like? Next one, how do you rate yourself on your follow-through systems? Number 10, personal management systems. By this I mean goal setting, strategies for achieving your goals, time management. Good salespeople, successful salespeople, business people are very, very good with their personal management systems. They use technology, they use their smartphones, they use their laptops, they use the internet, they do video conferencing, go for efficiency. And they're the 10. So I'd like you to just consider each of those and consider how well developed are you in those key areas. And if there's any key ideas that you've gotten from just what we covered there, what will you take action on afterwards? Because I hope that this will lead to action, not just some notes. That you'll actually do something with this information, because this is actually the way people do well in sales. They develop these key areas. It's not magic, very, very simple. 10 key areas. Make a decision to become extraordinary in them. Okay. I put a slide up there that says how to develop the winning edge. When I was a small child, we lived very close to the airport in Brisbane. Any of you ever seen the movie The Castle? Like that. I didn't know it at the time. I thought, how nice. Because those planes used to fly overhead, and I knew later they were on final for runway 18 left. I now know this. But they were coming so low over the house, and I'd look up and I'd say, one day I'm going to learn how to fly. I'm going to be a pilot. I must have started saying that from 2 or 3 or 4 years of age, right? Until I got into school, where I had some sense knocked into me by a teacher who said, don't be silly. You're stupid. You're no good at maths. You're no good at science. You could never be a pilot. Oh, okay. So there are dream stealers that will come along in life, but I actually made a decision I would be a pilot. And everything we become good at because we make the decision to do so. Most people don't ever make the decision to do so. So developing a winning edge in sales firstly comes down to making the decision to actually do that. Because I share these ideas with hundreds, thousands of people. And over the years, somebody worked out recently, it's more than 500,000 people I've shared these ideas with over the last, I think about 25 years they went back. And I do hear from people doing enormously well, but there's a greater majority of people who do absolutely nothing with this formula. This is a formula for success in sales. So, in terms of developing the winning edge, when we look at salespeople and sales produced by salespeople, we've discovered, regardless of the industry, and when we look into companies, we find this is the case, roughly 80% of the sales tend to be produced by 20% of the people. Some of you are familiar with Pareto's principle. It's at play here again. 20% of the people produce 80% of the sales. Interesting. And what we've discovered when we looked across a variety of industries, we found that the people in the top 20% of sales tended to produce not just twice the amount of sales, but on average 16 times the sales volume and earn 16 times the income of the average person in any industry. Just think about that. People in the top 20% were earning 16 times more if they were being paid commission only. They're making 16 times the sale of the average salesperson. You see, that's where the action is, right? In the top 20%. So my question for you is, like in your industry, in terms of your sales ability, you're in the top 20%. Because if you're in the top 20%, you're doing very, very well. And when we looked at the top 20% of the top 20%, which is the top 4%, we found that it was in fact a ratio of about 30 to 1. The really high achievers in sales in the top 5% in any industry, in any type of business, are literally selling 30 times the average. Their income is often reflected 30 times or more of the average. That's where the action is. In fact, these people have developed a winning edge that has placed them in the top 4%, the top 20%. And if you're already in the top 20%, I think it's really good to move up to the top 4%. So, question is, how do you do that? I don't know whether any of you would recognize that face. Yeah, you probably recognize this image from the 2000 Olympics. Kathy Freeman. Now, when Kathy Freeman came in, what was it? It was the 400 meters, I think, wasn't it? Kathy Freeman. It's a while ago now, but people remember it. I certainly remember it. Even the young people who weren't alive then still have heard of this. But when she beat the person who came in second, by how much did she beat the person who came in second? Was it like a second or two, or was it? It'd be like a fraction of a second, wouldn't it? So, you know, what's the difference between the sale you get and the sale you don't get? It's often like 1 or 2 words. Like, it's so close. But as I say, there are no prizes for second in races. And I mean, who came in second in that race? No one remembers, but everyone remembers the name Kathy Freeman, who went on to be, you know, enormously successful. She had developed the winning edge. So how do you develop the winning edge, particularly in sales or in anything that you choose to do? So there we have those 10 characteristics, those 10 performance factors. I'm going to share with you how you develop a winning edge. You ready to take some notes? This is the formula. This is what works, absolutely works, we know. Could you, if you were absolutely serious about developing that first one, your positive mental attitude, could you improve your attitude by just 5% in 30 days? How many of you think you could do that? How could you do that? If you said, okay, I'm going to improve my attitude 5% in the next 30 days, what sort of things would you start doing? Listening to maybe inspirational, educational audios, for example, rather than listening to the radio. What else might you do? Affirmations, positive affirmations rather than negative affirmations. A lot of people have negative affirmations. I could never do that, I'm not that good. Okay, replace it by positive affirmations. What else could you do to improve your attitude? Surround yourself with people who support you in your growth. So there's many things that you could do to be 5% better in your attitude in just 30 days if you made a conscious effort to do it every day. What about the next one? Health and personal presentation. See, 5% 30 days would be easy. It's not that difficult, right? And in personal presentation, could you work on your personal presentation to improve it by 5% in 30 days? Yes, you could. That would, again, be very easy to do that. Product and industry knowledge. Could you be 5% better in 30 days? Answer, of course, anyone could do that because the word is easy. It's really, really easy to do that. But see, it's easy to do it. It's just as easy not to do it. And guess what most people choose to do? Not do it. This is the formula. It works if you choose to work with it. So you get the idea here. If you developed just 5% improvement in 30 days in those 10 key areas, do you think it would make a difference? Do you think you'd see a 5% increase in your sales? How do you think it might be more? Why? Thank you, the compounding effect. And we know this because people who work with us in our coaching programs, we challenge them to do it. Then we give them the training in those skill areas. We challenge them to put it into action in the real world. And in a 30-day period, it is not uncommon to see like a 30 or 40% increase in sales. They go, wow, how did that happen? It happened because they simply decided to get better on purpose. Now, having seen it work for 30 days, could you in fact go another 30 days? Just 5% better. And of course, it becomes even easier in the second 30 days. Why? It's now a habit. We've now got the momentum. We've got the proof that this stuff works. It's called the conscious condenser. So 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%. We do this for another 30 days, and we're approaching 60 days. What do you think is happening to our sales? Go to my website, have a look, see what happens when people do this. Amazing things happen. We hear great success stories. So you've done it for 60 days. Could you now go another 30 days? Now we're moving to the 90-grade category. 90 days, 30% increase or more. Could you do that? Yeah. Here's a better question for you. Will you do that? See, some of you will. Some of you will just get it and say, I really need to do something about my sales. The great majority of people will not. I hope you're one of the ones who will. Because it makes a major difference. When you decide to become really, really good at anything, you can develop the winning edge. It makes such an enormous difference. I'm going to move on. So let's talk in general about principles of success. How many of you would like to enjoy more success over the next 12 months than you have in the previous 12 months? Anyone not? Because now would be the time to leave, right? So everyone wants to do this. If everyone why it is, again, that some people succeed methodically, consistently, they get knocked down in life, they get up, they get it all back again really, really quickly. It's because they do certain things differently to most people. So here's a good question for you. Do you have a strategy or a plan in place now to do that? Because most people do not. Most people are wandering generalities in life. They become a part of somebody else's plan. If you don't have a good plan, you'll be a part of somebody else's plan really, really quickly. Here's a good question for you. How will you measure your success over the next 12 months? You told me a moment ago, yes, I'd like to be more successful. How will you measure your success? Can I get a few ideas? In other words, things will manifest in your life in the next 12 months. You'll say, yes, for me, that is success. What are you looking for? What are you going for? Don't all hold back now. If you could have it. Improve lifestyle? Thank you. What else? Money? It's okay. It's okay. Money's good. Jim Rohn said to me once, you know, Wayne, one of the best ways you can help the poor people is not be one of them. Really, you can help so many more people by getting the money under control. Think, what else? Let me throw up here a few things that people often tell me. Money is often on the top of the list. More sales as it relates to business. More customers. More freedom to do what you want to do. Health is kind of important. And it's a funny thing, until we don't have health, we sometimes don't even notice how important that is. I've had some interesting experience in recent times. That, you know, life is temporary. I was saying to Steve before, life is really, really temporary. You know, we need to do what we need to do every single day. We don't know how long we've got at all. Quality of relationships. Some of you measure your success through the quality of your relationships, business relationships, personal relationships, kids, family. Your net worth. It's a good way to keep score. New car, home, holidays, those kind of things. So what will you do starting today to achieve the success you desire? It's a really good question. You're going to take a whole lot of notes away from these 2 days. It's Friday afternoon, got time on the weekend. What will you do differently? See, what will the average person do? Nothing at all. Nothing at all. They'll put their notes in a drawer in a safe place. They'll say, well, that was really good. Gee, I attended that. The question is, what will you do? Here's what the average person does when things aren't working out well for them. I see some of you smiling. You see, I often see people, I used to go to seminars fairly frequently, I'd come back a year later, the company would bring me back, and I'd see people, and they were in the front row, and they were going to do all sorts of things, and I said, well, how did it go? What happened? And they said, well, you wouldn't believe it. Yeah. You know, have you seen what's been happening with the economy recently? You know, have you seen what's been happening with the competition? I mean, the competition, they're so tough, they cut their prices all the time. I mean, if you have to work with the people that I work with, you know, you don't understand why I couldn't do any better. Any of you know people who say these sorts of things? Yeah, they do, don't they? And you say to them, well, so why don't you make some changes? Then they go to the next level, which says, you don't understand. Until the economy improves, the government changes, Trump's out of office, the kids grow up, they get a better boss, they do better marketing, competition goes broke, don't expect things to get better for me because like I'm doing the best I can possibly do. And these people, sadly, are in denial that they have anything to do with where they're at today. Are you aware we are where we are at today in the room here right now because of all the decisions that we have made in our life that have brought us to where we are today? And the difference between us sitting in the room here and the gentleman I nearly tripped over in Melbourne the other day, who was face down on the footpath and Randus, is he passed out or what? He's in the begging business. That's what he does. And very, very sad. I mean, what's the difference? It's all of it. I sometimes look at people like that and think, Why? Why has that occurred? Decisions made along the way. Yeah, there's some unfortunate things that happen, but it's not what happens to us in life that counts as much as our response to what happens. Finally, some people quit, don't they? They don't quit their job, they don't quit their business, they quit. They quit trying, and they quit life. They quit life. Sometimes they absolutely quit life. In fact, they'll just tell you, I'm just a victim. In fact, I'm just a victim of what? Circumstances beyond my control. Do any of you know people like that? Circumstances beyond my control. Wow, how sad. It's awful. Now, I went through the airline dispute of 1989. I lost absolutely everything, including my wife, who came to me and said, I've been doing some goal setting for the next year. And I said, that's great, we should look at that. And she said, I've been doing some planning, you're not in my plans. And it was over. And she suggested a trial separation. It's been 27 years now, it's been fairly successful. Now, the reason I tell that story, I can laugh about it now, but let me tell you, at the time, I'm in the personal development business, bring in the American speakers, I'm successful, I'm written up in BRW, I lose it all. And I start feeling sorry for myself, I start feeling like I'm a victim. And that's when I met Robert Kiyosaki. And Robert was talking to a room, and he was drawing on a flip chart, much like that, and he drew a line, and he said, at some point in your life, you got to draw the line, and you got to make a decision, do you live below the line or above the line? And he wrote a word above the line and said, this word changes everything. Anyone know the word? I didn't like what he said. He said, where you are at right now in your life, you have created, you alone are responsible. I started to say, you don't understand. He said, once you take 100% responsibility for where you're at, now you can move to wherever you want to be. Because most people live making excuses. So I couldn't possibly do that. You don't understand. I believe we can do anything that we set our mind to do if we take responsibility. It's the starting point. So in terms of getting what you want in the future, it's a cliche, but it's true. If it is to be, it's up to me. Do you know some people say they should fix this, they should fix that? I've worked out they're not coming. No one's coming to fix it for us. The successful people fix it for ourselves, and we go into greater success. So, victim of circumstances. Okay, so what will you do? Hopefully you will already take 100% responsibility. Let me share with you 7 quick steps for going from wherever you're at to wherever you'd like to be. Here's step number 1. I probably touched on it. 7 steps for creating your own better future is what I call this subject. Number 1, get serious, for goodness sake. I don't mean grim, but I'm get serious, like it's time. I mean, how many years are we going to be on the planet before we decide to go for what we really want? Sometimes it takes a health scare for someone to come back and say, I'm not wasting any more time. I didn't realize life is so short. I'm not going to hold back anymore. I'm going to go for what I want. Whatever it takes, get serious. Here's number 2 step. Make a commitment. Commitment to who? Yourself, not to your spouse as much as you love your spouse, as much as you love your family. Until we make a commitment to ourselves to do what it takes, nothing changes. I've worked that one out. Make a commitment to self. Number 3, develop your skills. Really important to develop your skills. Now, here's what I've worked out. If you want better relationships, develop your relationship skills. If you want to be a better parent, study how to be a better parent, develop those skills. If you want to develop your business, sell more, develop your selling skills. Whatever. This applies in any aspect of our life. You want to improve health? Study. Figure out how people do that. Study it. More importantly, implement it. Good thing is all skills can be learned if the desire is high enough. I stand here in front of you as an example of that. I developed skills whenever I went, video production, let's do it. Let's figure out how they do that. Sail a big boat, let's see how to do it. I wasn't sailing boats like that 2 years ago. In fact, Miranda even said to me, are you sure you want to start learning how to sail an ocean-going catamaran and sail around the world now that you reach 49? Well, I've told Miranda I'm only 49. Actually 53 now. All skills can be learned. But see, what determines whether we can develop the skills? It's here, it's the attitude. Do not let people tell you cannot do that. People still try to tell me you cannot do that. I say, get out of my way, watch me do that. We can go too far, by the way. We've got to have a bit of balance from not do dangerous things. But all skills can be learned if the desire is high enough. Here's something Jim Ryan taught me many, many years ago. He said, work harder on yourself than you do on the job. Because when you work hard on yourself developing the skills, the job gets easier. Work harder on yourself than you do on the job gets easier. When I started studying, oh, by the way, my philosophy around learning to do anything is be really committed, get serious, make a commitment. So when I learned to fly, decided to learn to fly a plane, what's the first thing you've got to do? Buy a plane. Of course you would, wouldn't you? I mean, once you've spent the money, bought a plane, now you've got to learn to fly it. People didn't see the wisdom. But, I mean, you got it. What are you going to tell your friends? Well, I changed my mind. I went, no, you've got to learn how to fly. And that's exactly what I did. In fact, I went one step further. I bought a kit plane, and I built it. You take really good care when you do. And I really did. I built and restored 6 airplanes during my life. I'm not going to do that again. But same thing with boating. When I first went out on the cat, the sail was flapping and the ropes were, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But the more I worked hard at it and studied it and practiced and practiced and practiced it, to the point where I can sail the boat single-handed. I often go off on my own, all the safety gear, all that sort of thing. But to prove to myself, and prove to Miranda too, by the way, that it is really safe, it is really okay to do that. Don't let people tell you cannot do anything. Don't do anything silly, but don't be told by other people. Work harder on yourself than you do on the job gets easier. Sailing gets easier, flying gets easier. The things I've mastered in my life and you've mastered in your life, you've done so because you got serious, you made the commitment to do it, and you went and did it, and you practiced it and practiced it and practiced. You worked hard on developing the skill, and it got easier. Business gets easier when you develop the skills. So many people are amateurs in business. They kind of fool around with it. It doesn't work out. They make all those excuses we saw before. It's the economy, it's the government, it's this and that. No, it's not. It's us. How good we decide to become at it. Same in sales. We've identified the vital skills. There they are. We looked at them before. The question is, and you wrote down before, how you rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. Now, if you are anything less than 10 in each of those areas, and let me be the first to say I am, absolutely. Have I got those fully mastered? No, not at all. And this is my business, and I study it every day. But the moment you say, I have learned it all, I am the very best in the world, I can't learn any more, I think Ray Kroc put it well. He said, when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's. So if you've got any skill deficiency there, this is a costly gap. If you've got an attitude that is not 10 out of 10, this is very, very costly. I was unwell a little while back. I was talking to my doctor, and it was an illness that people die of, right? So I'm having a serious chat with him. He said, you're doing remarkably well. It's amazing. We didn't think you'd see Christmas. Well, thank you, Doc, for telling me. They actually told me beforehand, but he said, yeah, it's remarkable. So why is it that some people survive this and some people do not survive it? He said, number one factor is attitude. We spoke about it. I said, yeah, I know this. I teach this stuff. He said, well, let me tell you. He said, some people, it gets so hard for them because the treatment I have is very painful. I hope none of you have endured it, but if you have, you know what I'm talking about. It's not easy. He said, a lot of people quit. I said, why would they quit? He said, I don't know. They just say, Doc, I can't take it anymore. I guess I'm just get my affairs in order. It's just my time. And he said, I feel like shaking them and saying, it's not your time. We can probably extend your life. I mean, we all live on life extension. You're aware of that? We have no idea how long we got. But if you can get another few years. And I had this illness 6 years ago, and they told me the same thing then. You're not going to survive this. And I did. Wow, 6 years. Amazing. Now I'm going, 6 years. We hope. But the point here being that attitude made the difference. He was saying his patients who survive, he said, you really don't surprise me. It is quite a remarkable transformation. He said, but you've always been so positive. You come in here, you always got your plans. He said, some people come in and they get ready to die. As soon as I tell them how long they got, they work the plan to die. And sometimes they'll die ahead of plan. Is it really that powerful? Yes, it's really that powerful. The one factor in illness is our attitude. Health and personal presentation. Have you got a costly gap there? How about industry knowledge? How about your ability to prospect? Do you have any costly gaps? I call them costly gaps. See, some people say, well, training. Hey, Wayne, your training, that's expensive. No, it's not. Having these gaps and losing business that should be yours, that's what's costly. See, we can define, I can tell you exactly what the investment is to do a training program with this. I cannot tell you how much you're losing in profit over a period of time by not having these skills. Does that make sense? So training is not, hey, you've paid to be on this program. Training isn't expensive. Not having the knowledge and the skills, that's what's expensive. I'm going to suggest know exactly what your gaps are. Right now, we have an online assessment where you can go online, and if you'd like information on this, just simply give us your business card or write on that blank sheet of paper, give us to us at the end, email address, phone number. We'll get the link to you. You can go online. You can do an online selling skills assessment. It will tell you precisely what your strengths and weaknesses are, areas for improvement. The investment for people to go online and do that is $350. I've got some good news for you. You thought I would, right? It takes 15 minutes to do, then you know for sure what your strengths are, what your areas for improvement are. It's followed by a 45-minute video conference consultation with one of our coaches, possibly even myself. And the arrangement that we have here is no fee. Okay, no fee. All you got to do, give Miranda your, there she is, give Miranda your details at the end. We'll get the information to you. Then you'll know what areas can you improve in. Simple as that. Step number 4. We spoke before about the importance of friends. Surround yourself with friends who expect more of you than you do of yourself. We are profoundly affected and influenced by the people that we hang around with. It is incredible. Losers tend to hang around with, I mean, that's unfair, you know, for me to call someone a loser, but really, losers hang around with losers, winners hang around with winners. See, losers hang around with other losers, then you don't look so bad. In fact, you can even look good if you pick a really slow group, yeah? But you notice birds of a feather stick together, they really do. But again, we've got a choice who we spend our time with. I mean, don't be unkind, but we do have a choice who we hang with. In choosing friends, most people choose reasonable friends. I'll just quickly relate a story. Back then, 1989, lost everything. I had many friends who would call me up and say, Wayne, how's it going? I loved that question. I had lost everything, my marriage, my money, I'm living in a rented place, I'm feeling really miserable and sorry for myself. So when people said, how's it going? I loved the question because I had a really good answer. I was so good. I was really, really good. And what was I looking for? Sympathy, because I was a sad and broken man at the time. You know? So most people surround themselves with people that when things aren't going well for them, they tell their sad, sad tale, they get lots and lots of sympathy, which supports them staying where they're at because they can actually put extra things on their list of reasons they're not doing well. I had well-meaning friends who told me things I didn't even think of, and I put those on the list as well. You know. So when I did my Lay, Blame, Justify, I had a really, really good list. So most people surround themselves with reasonable friends. I'm going to suggest instead, surround yourself with people who are unreasonable with you. People who are prepared to tell you the truth. Quick story. Someone said that to me, yeah, absolutely. If you can have people like this in your life, it makes a major difference because most people hang around with reasonable people. They say, oh, life's tough. You know, I want to do this, but I haven't got the money, I can't do it. And you know, with my education, my background, kids, I can't possibly do it. And the reasonable friends say, you're absolutely right, you know. Geez, let's go and have another beer. Now, I'm in a coffee shop, South Yarra, Melbourne, early 1990s, and I've lost everything, right? And I'm trying to find myself, and I used to find myself in bars fairly frequently late at night. And I'm not even a drinker. I've been married for like 18 years, 2 kids. It's not my style, but I'm learning. So I'm out there. A friend, well, wasn't a friend, but later became a friend, came up to me and said, hey, didn't you used to be Wayne Berry? Now, did they really say that? No, but that's how I filtered it. Didn't you? Like, I'm a has-been. I was like, oh. No, who are you? And I'm thinking, is this a creditor, someone I owe money to? By the way, I owed over $1 million, which was a lot of money back then. I paid it all back, took me a lot of time, and I simply said, this is where I live, here's my phone number, I'm not leaving town, I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to pay it. And so many of my creditors came to me and said, Wayne, how can we help you? Would you like some brochures? Would you like a venue? Would you like, can we help you? Can we loan you money? And I said, no, I don't want any money, but I may come back to you and you can help me with certain things, which I did. This person came up to me and they introduced themselves and they said, yeah, I come to all of your seminars, haven't received a brochure lately. Wish we'd mail them, the mail, the old days. I said, haven't you heard? And this person said, heard what? I said, oh, want a coffee? Had an opportunity to tell my sad, sad tale. I'm pouring it on and they're totally unmoved, no emotion at all. And I'm thinking, I'm not getting through to this person, I'm not really good at this. And they said, well, I hear what you say, but what have you done since then? I said, well, I mean, you know, like I'm a broken man, I'm very sad, and did you hear what I told you about the lawyer? And so you surprise me. You know about goal setting, success. Why haven't you done something? And I suddenly remembered I had an appointment. So I told them, and I left, but I'd given them my card, had my phone number on it in the rented place. Next day, they phoned, but 1 in the afternoon. Hey, it's me, you got a plan together yet? You remember we met last night and you loser, you know. Oh, no, I haven't, but thank you very much for... Next day, they phoned again, a little bit earlier. I knew it was earlier because I used to sleep until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon trying to find myself. And, you know, it's awful. They phoned me, they asked the same question again. Now, I cannot truthfully remember how many times they phoned me, but they phoned me day after day after day for maybe 4 or 5 days until I was up 8 o'clock in the morning expecting the call, right? And there's that chirpy voice that I'd learned to hate on the phone. Hey, it's me. Hey, how you going? You got the plan together yet? I said, yes, I have. I was up late last night working on the plan, got the plan together. It's great. It's great future. I'm going to do a whole bunch of things. This person said, terrific. I'll come over. We'll go with the plan together. Oh. Now I'm a loser and a liar, right? I don't have a plan. But look, I tell you that story because do you know people who do that? They kid themselves. They do absolutely nothing. They're looking for sympathy. And this person smacked me between the eyes and said, I expected better of you than this. I said, well, I've got to do a little bit of refining to the plan. And they said, well, I'll come over this afternoon. Okay. And then I spent the rest of the day coming up with a plan. And guess what the plan was I came up with? To be here today. To reinvent myself, to create the business I've created. And the point here being, having unreasonable friends in your life is much better than having reasonable friends. They came over in the afternoon, we looked at the plan together, they said, that's a good plan. When's your first seminar? I said, well, I'm not too sure. They said, well, we better book a venue, let's find one that doesn't know you're broke. Good start, straight off. And that's exactly what we did. And we just started and we built it. So having unreasonable friends in your life makes a major difference. Now, the unreasonable friend system works. It's when you give permission to someone to keep you on track, to hold you to the promises you make to yourself to achieve your goals. Share your goals with unreasonable friends. Do not share your goals with people who will support you or excuses for not achieving them, is what I'm saying. I hope this makes sense. It comes from my personal life and the things I've learned along the way, but this is not unique. When I talk to successful people, many of them have unreasonable friends in their life. Many have gotten serious, said, that's it. Many made that commitment, developed the skills, surrounded themselves with unreasonable friends. It is the permission to challenge you, to tell you the truth, to not accept your excuses, to hold you to your highest standards in your best interest. And there's my unreasonable friend at the back of the room there, reminding me that it's time. Isn't it amazing? I was able to take that photograph without you seeing me do that. But there you go. Miranda is my most unreasonable friend these days. Great support to have in my life. Very lucky. Step number 5, accountability. See, accountability to an unreasonable friend is a very powerful combination. Make a promise to yourself, share it with an unreasonable friend, set a time frame to report in with them as to what you have done. And we generally find 1 week is a good time frame. So all the people we coach, they work with coaches who become their unreasonable friends because they give them permission to. And if they say they're going to make 30 prospecting calls this week, come Friday, and they talk to their unreasonable friend, they have to have made 30 calls. Their unreasonable friend will not accept an excuse. Have you noticed that sometimes we need to be pushed to do what we know we should do, week after week after week, which is why training and coaching should be ongoing. It's not like come to a couple of days like this and go away, put your notes in a drawer. It's all about what you do afterwards. I don't know about you, but sometimes we need someone like, for me, a Miranda in my life, to say, come on, fat boy, get out of bed and go and do that stuff. Because that's exactly what she was doing for me late last year when I was zapped of energy. And she said, part of this health regime, you've got to get out of bed every morning. That's why we've got 2 dogs. You've got to walk the dogs, right? And she'd go walking with me. And that's often what an unreasonable friend will do. They'll do it with you. They will help. And if you can be each other's unreasonable friends, that's a very powerful combination. We'd be walking along the beach and she'd say, you're doing it again. What, Miranda? You're walking with your eyes closed again? Yes, I am. I don't have the energy to have the eyes open. But she kept pushing me to do what I needed to do. And that's the kind of unreasonable friend we need to have in our life, to whom we can be accountable. So we make a promise and we keep a promise, we're accountable to an unreasonable friend. Someone who will not let you off the hook. Step number 6, courage. Now, it's not have courage. It's exercise your courage. To move outside your comfort zone. We all have a comfort zone, right? Some people say, I could never make phone calls. Making phone calls, speak to strangers, that terrifies me. I couldn't possibly do that. Yes, you could if you decide to do it. I told myself many years ago I could never get in front of a group of people and speak in front of a group of people. And I had myself convinced I couldn't do that because I was terrible at it. I knew I was terrible at it because I tried once and I failed. And I made a decision at that point, 17 years of age, I will never do that again. When I was doing quite well with NCR, my sales manager one morning asked me to get up and explain to the group of people in the room how I got that sale. I was sitting in the front row, looking and smiling, and I was very happy, and I got up, and I turned and I faced the group, and my mind left town. Honestly, I stood there looking at these guys, all of whom I knew, but suddenly I got like stage fright, and I opened my mouth, nothing came out, and I felt really sick. Have any of you ever experienced anything like that? And I made a decision at that young age I could never speak to people again until I decided that I had to develop that skill, particularly in 1990 when I decided to stop promoting the Americans and be a speaker myself. A whole new set of skills to develop. Move outside your comfort zone. Learning to fly, again, is another one of those. I didn't realise I was scared of heights until I started to... And I really, it was difficult because I used to throw up when I was on the flying lessons. I had one instructor, well-meaning guy, who said to me, his name was Matt. He said, Matt said, not everyone's cut out to be a pilot, you know. He said, oh, you know, you could try something else. So I fired Matt and got another unreasonable friend who wouldn't accept my excuses and just push on, push on. And even right now, I was down on the Gold Coast, up on the Gold Coast recently. Have you ever gone to some of those really tall buildings near the beach and you look out and they're just, I've got to stand like that. I cannot go close to the balcony. I'm still scared of heights. But if I strap on some wings, I can fly. Why? Mastered the skill. Okay? It's move outside your comfort zone. Some of the best things that have ever happened to me is when I press outside the comfort zone. How does it feel when you move outside the comfort zone? Scary and eventually great, but it's terrifying. Sign of growth. If you are not doing things that terrify you, you are not growing. But move outside your comfort zone. Now you've got a bigger comfort zone. It's remarkable what you now become, who you become when you move outside your comfort zone. Discomfort is good. Sign of growth. Step number 7. We're getting there. Step number 7 is the step missing in most people's formula for success. I think you probably guessed it. It says take massive, immediate action. Action's what it's all about. Decide to do something, take massive, immediate action. People say, what if it's the wrong decision? You find out quicker. And you just make course corrections called learning experience. But seriously, you've invested to be on, not just here, of course, but on the program with Steve's organisation. I hope you're really taking action on everything you're learning. Because again, as my friend Jim Ryan once said, in 12 months' time, you surely will arrive. The question is where? Will you arrive at a destination where you wish to be, or will you be still at the departure point? And for many people, they're still at the departure point saying, you don't understand. Look, I hope some of these ideas are useful to you, but more importantly, I hope that you will take some action on those ideas. If you are serious about improving your selling skills, hey, please talk with us. If you'd like our Top Gun video tips that come out weekly, again, give us your email address, phone number, write it on that blank sheet of paper, or give us a business card, simply give it to Miranda before you leave. And I think I'll turn it back to Steve.